Recently, I've built the Iris Split keyboard and the Dilly 30% board, which are both super interesting DIY kits from Keyboard. I don't want to be so preachy, but I really do love the range of PCBs they offer, as they give me a base to build keyboards from. So today we're going to check out the Viterbi 70% split ortholinear mechanical keyboard. Alright, so here we have the Viterbi PCBs, and this is all I ordered from them, but you can get plates, cases, and other accessories from them as well. This is a split keyboard, so we have a pair of bare PCBs which are identically the same, as the components can be soldered to either side. You will require a soldering station to complete the PCBs, which you can learn to do very easily with a couple of video tutorials, which I'll link in the description. I forgot to do it here, but make sure you put in the headers of the Pro Micro in before the key switches, but do not solder the actual Pro Micro until the very end. I've hand cut a plate before and it's the absolute worst thing to do, so I got some 3mm acrylic plates cut by my friend Laser Ninja. Keyboard do sell plates of course, but I made a few changes to mine using the plate files that they have on GitHub. I basically just gave more room for some bezel, as normally there is none. For the actual case, I'm using the same old polycarbonate sheets that I've been using for my other handmade cases. Honestly, having the scroll saw has really made making cases easy without having to spend too much at all. As you may have seen, I've already made the Pain 27 and the Dilly using the scroll saw, and I love it. Although it's still all pretty much freehand as you're just following lines, so you still have to do a lot of fixing up and checking to make sure things line up and fit. And then of course sanding and filing up at the end of it. Having a disc and belt sander certainly does help a heap with making everything much faster. With all the equaling out, I ended up with about 11mm bezels, so I'm pretty happy with that. Priming the case is super important as it helps the paint to stick to the case, but more importantly, it helps fill in all the gaps and scratches. The worse it is, the more times you'll have to prime and sand. The person I'm building this for wanted the case to be a nice simple white. With painting, patience is the number one thing. You just gotta be patient as a mistake can bring you back an hour or sometimes a day, so just take your time. For the key switches, we have Alias Silence. These are 70g ones and are tactile switches, and like other silent switches, these have the little dampeners on the stem to of course dampen the sound. The last bit is to solder in the Pro Micros, which powers the Viterbi. But before that, we have to flash them to ensure they work, because desoldering Pro Micros is one of the most difficult things possible. To learn how to flash the Pro Micros, I'll leave a link in the description. Being a split keyboard, we have our master side and our slave side. So my left PCB will be my master, and we'll have the Pro Micro with the components facing down. And the right side will be my slave with the Pro Micro facing the other way. The keycaps I have here are just a temporary set until the owner gets the actual set he wants. For now, we got this completely 1U DSA key set in white and blue. And to finish it off, just a little surprise for you. So I wasn't sure on how I would join the two pieces together, but I wanted something different. There wasn't a whole lot of space in the bezels, so I got these 5mm neodymium magnets which fit nicely into the corners instead of using screws. And they work pretty well. Ideally, I would have a few more magnets around the side, but the bezels aren't really thick enough, so yeah. The hold is pretty good though, like they won't separate out of nowhere, but I definitely would have liked a bit more strength. And having those completely hidden, it allows us to have this super clean aesthetic. I'm really happy with how it actually looks. I went for a high profile design, so there needed to be bezels to cover the key switches, and I do like myself some healthy bezels to give it some substance and a good physical presence. Alright, so to the actual keyboard. This is a 70% split ortholinear keyboard, so we have exactly 70 keys in a grid layout. So it's pretty sizable, being bigger than other popular split orthos like the Let's Split and Nyquist. And I really do like the size. It gives us room for everything that we need, like dedicated arrow keys, all our mods and nav cluster keys. We can also have 2U keys in the corners here, but we opted to just go with all 1U keys. So it actually wasn't that difficult to use for me since I wasn't really using any layers because we have everything I really need. It's only the ortholinear nature that I had to adapt to as always, but honestly after a few hours of use it's not so bad. The 70g Alias key switches were fun to play with as well. I do like silent key switches with their dampened feel and of course quiet output. The tactile bump is pretty decent as well, being quite smooth and prominent. The only other silent tactile I've had proper experience with are the Xylants, and it's always difficult to compare them without being side to side. Plus the case and plate always makes a big difference to both the feel and sound because they're still quite audible in this. Overall, I'm really pleased with the final result. It's definitely not perfect as most of the cuts are just freehand and the white finish isn't completely even, but yeah, still happy. I do enjoy using split keyboards, but the ortholinear nature just isn't for me personally, but I know the owner will be absolutely fine with it. Again, big thumbs up to Keyboard for having these fun, unique PCBs to play around with and just giving us more layout options. It gives me the chance to experiment like with the magnets and just make what I want to make.